the penalties for running migrants are lower than the penalties for running drugs.
Much less so.
Okay.
Much less so.
I see. Running drugs, you can be getting decades. Migrants, it's...
There's often a mandatory minimum with drugs. I believe if you get caught with any amount over a couple pounds, your mandatory minimum is going to be 10 years.
And that's a federal mandatory minimum?
Yes, meaning the minimum absolute amount of time you will serve is 10 years, and that's if they give you the very low end of your sentence. And you cannot parole, this is a common misconception, you cannot parole out of the feds. There's, kind of in pop culture, paroling out of prison. You can parole out of state prison, I'm pretty sure. You only have to serve, I think you're only required to serve 30% of your time if you get caught with state crimes. Feds, you cannot parole out, so
Okay.
you're going to be doing that sentence.
Okay.
You don't get out after 3-4 years in your 10-year
I see.
sentence. You're serving that 10-year sentence.
Yeah.
So you have to be willing to commit and make that recognition of like, if I get caught with these keys, with these bricks, that could be a decade of my life.
Wow. Okay. And so then some people don't want to take that risk, and so there's an opportunity potentially, if they're trustworthy, they've got a good track record, where they start running more valuable migrants
Yes.
in order to make more money instead of going the drug route, because if they get caught with the migrants, they may be doing substantially less time in
Yeah.
federal prison.
I mean, it's an
Okay.
investment on their end too, obviously, if they're still feeling you out, they want to make sure, at this point they've screened you, you're not an undercover. They want to make sure, you're decent at your job, you're a little street smart, you keep your head on, just basic, you're able to keep your composure and you're not an idiot. You're not an idiot. They just want to see that
Yeah.
you can do the job correctly and keep your head down. So, they're taking a small risk when they hand you, maybe 3 people to run across and you're getting $2,500 a head.
Okay.
So obviously they would like to start out with that versus handing someone $200,000 worth of cargo in
see.
humans,
Right.
So you do work your way up to that
Right.
point, just like any other company or
Right.
system,
Okay, so you were saying El Salvador, maybe Central American countries, Mexico.
Mostly the ones where there's a lot of violence and corruption. These people aren't coming because they're coming because they're scared. They want a better quality of life. They're tired. I know particularly in El Salvador, if you get caught crossing the border into the U.S., you serve your sentence in the U.S. and then you're usually deported back to wherever you came from, which is terrifying for those people because if they catch you trying to return to your country, just the fact that you tried to leave in the first place is considered treason and they kill you. Like, especially I remember the El Salvadorians.
Initially leaving El Salvador,
Yes.
if you get extradited back.
It's treason when you come back because it's like you tried to leave. And I know MS-13 is a huge, we also have problems with that in Texas. And obviously the closer you get to the border,
And
there's a lot of
MS-13
that.
is the Salvadoran major gang.
Yeah, they're notorious for being extremely violent. They don't have a lot of boundaries. I don't know if they have any boundaries, actually. I've heard stories in Houston, Texas, about girls, MS-13 girls, being chained to the wall. They get chained to the wall, they get beat, they get they can't do anything about it. It's just extremely violent, and there's no consideration of the fact that this is a real person. They don't care. They
Is
do
this
not
like a
care.
hazing ritual to get into the gang, or is this just something they do to women?
Oh no, I think it happens to like everyone, but I don't think they
Wow.
care about their victims, but I know like women are obviously the most susceptible because they're a little less. They're considered to be a little less than men, especially in the gang,
Okay. Wow. Okay.
I know
I
they
guess
do
rather-
have female members, but
Yeah, kind of random question. Are you aware of any tie-in from the maybe Central and South American gangs or even Mexican gangs and the cartels who are operating these larger businesses, let's call them?
So like I said, I was never sure exactly what the guns are used for, but obviously there comes power when you control a large territory, and you need to be able to defend your territory and put your foot down one way or another. It's a group, it's an organization, and I don't want to think about what those guns were being used for whenever the guy did get his hands on them, but I know it is, turf wars a little bit. Because everyone wants the upper hand. Everyone wants to have the most control, The more control you have, the more money you can make, the more power you have.
Did you get the sense that at the time that you were working, and this was 2020, 2021-ish?
2021.
Okay. This was, okay, so in Piedras Negras, was the organization that you were working for turf battling in that area, or was that why you were doing the migrant running in that location because they had it on lockdown?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Now that you're saying that, that could be a part of it, but I'm not exactly sure. I would, it's not like I'd be traveling different parts of Mexico. I would take different routes, but relatively you're going to stay around the same kinds of areas.
I see.
So now that you're saying that, I think.
But they weren't
that could
prepping you
possibly-
to be cautious about maybe a different
Oh,
cartel
no,
coming
nothing
in
like
and
that.
causing problems. Okay.
Yeah.
Just, something I was curious about. Okay, so let's back up again.
You're good.
to you've done your couple of dry runs with Joe.
Yes.
And actually, can you tell us about what it looked like when you went through your inspection, your first inspection station with him? I think you had said that you were in one vehicle and he was following in another.
Yes. So so he was in front of me in his performance car. He had actually told me, we got on the phone. We were coming up on the checkpoint. We got on the phone and he told me we're about to go through a small checkpoint. We get to the checkpoint, and it was my understanding, like, this is basically like what can happen if you get caught up with people that aren't involved, or if you get caught up. He goes ahead of me. I see him roll down the window. He's talking to, I think it was a lady. I can't remember. I think there was only that one lady there at that time. He's talking to this lady, and
this is in an inspection station.
Yes. So I'm parked behind him.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what they're talking about. I'm assuming she's asking him, "What are you doing here? Like, what's your purpose of travel? Where are you going? Who's that behind you?" Obviously, we're together, and I remember panicking for a moment because I was like, they're gonna ask me, what are we doing here? And like it kind of seems like we're together. So I was worried about that. I was like, we didn't get our story straight. So I kind of assumed he had said, I'm just here like with my girlfriend. So I said, oh, I'm just traveling with my boyfriend. We're just traveling. But he had, they had made him pull off to the side. I was being questioned at that point. They start taking his car apart, not just opening the trunk, looking through it. They took the doors off the car. They let me go pretty quickly. They say, you can go on ahead. I don't know why they stopped him and not me.
Okay.
I told them, I was like, we're together. That's my boyfriend.
And you
We're
had
just
said that
traveling.
you were both traveling clean.
Yes.
You had no drugs on you. You had no migrants in your vehicles.
Yeah.
So they weren't going to find anything in his car.
No,
Okay.
neither one of us had anything. It was kind of a demonstration, I guess. But they start taking apart his car. They're taking the doors off. I tell her, I'm explaining to her. I think there was a dude at that point. I think it was a lady and a guy. I start explaining to her, I'm just here with my boyfriend. We're just traveling. And they basically let me go right away. And I call him, maybe a couple 100 feet down the road. I'm like, should I wait for you? Do I go back? Like, what do I keep driving? What do I do? Does it look weird if I turn around? I'm waiting for you. Does that make us look suspicious? Because we don't have anything on us, obviously. So even if they do search everything in our phones, we're okay. Nothing's going to happen. However, I know they do make notes of if they start to see the same cars a lot, and if they think there's some kind of suspicious activity, they will make a note of it, is what I've been told.
This license plate, this type of car. Okay.
Yeah, so you don't want to drive, even if you don't have anything on you, you still try and keep your head as low as possible.
Yeah.
The goal is to not get caught, even if you don't have anything on you,
Yeah.
because you start drawing attention to yourself at that point,
Okay.
even when you're clean. And
Okay.
they do make note of that. So I waited. I kept driving straight ahead because that was what he told me to. He said, just keep going. I'll catch up with you whenever they let me go. Just keep going. I think, I'd been driving for about 30 minutes, and I finally got a call from him saying, hey, I'm behind you. I will meet you back in the city.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you made it through your couple of dry runs. You had a basic idea of how it all worked.
Yes.
Did you actually transport migrants with Joe at any point where you saw the full thing? Or was your first run to pick up migrants just you and you had to follow the instructions that you had been shown?
My first run was only me. I did go on a run with him at one point, but we only ever made one actual drop together.
Okay.
So every other run I did was only me.
Okay, and by drop, this is picking up some migrants, taking them into wherever they were going to go, and then
Yes,
letting
drop
them go.
is defined as you successfully have gotten them to the holding house, safe house, wherever they need to be, hotel,
Okay.
whatever designated area you're supposed to put them at.
Okay. And these were places that had been booked for them? I would assume they're coming in without really much money or identification or anything like that.
They're scared, they're tired, they're dirty, they're sick, they're hungry. They don't know what's going on a lot of the time. You can see it in their eyes. You know, they're not talking. And obviously there's the language barrier of I speak very little Spanish, they speak very little English. But you can see it in their eyes. Their eyes are usually wide. They usually stink a little bit. Obviously not their fault. They've been traveling for days, weeks at a time, a lot of them. They're malnourished, thirsty, haven't had medical treatment.
Did they try to communicate with you when you were transporting them?
Very rarely. I really almost never had anyone try to talk to me. And even when you do try and talk to them, I would use, I would hook my phone up on Google Translate and put connect it to the Bluetooth in the car, and then I would tap the audio of whatever I wanted to say to them and have it blast into the car, you know, so they could. But they really never say much back. They just kind of, they're scared. Most of them are scared. They look terrified.
At some point, you're pulling them out of the trunk and putting them in the back seat where it's a bit more comfortable.
Yes.
Once you
yes.
know you're past the security and check spots and all that.
You're really not supposed to do that until like 2-3 hours into your trip, but sometimes I would do it earlier just for the fear of there is the possibility that someone can die in there, you know, can die in the trunk or suffocate or whatever, and they're obviously already dehydrated and thirsty. I don't know the full extent of what's going on in their bodies, so I try and get them out as soon as possible because that does scare me. But you can't do that until a certain point.
And these are usually men that you're picking up, or is this like...
It's a pretty even mix, men, women.
Men and women?
I had a pregnant lady one time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kids?
No, I never did children, never minors. The charges go up if you get caught with a minor.
Did you have the opportunity and
No.
you said, no, I don't want to do kids?
No.
Okay.
And obviously I don't know everyone's age when I go in, but I would look at my people and make sure, okay, like it looks like everyone here is at least 22, 23.
Okay.
They do transport them as young as like 12, 13. And, you know, obviously I don't want to get caught up with a fucking kid. That's way worse. It's enhanced charges. You serve more time for that.
Okay. Do you have the ability or let's say there's kids. You roll into the drop-off point. You weren't told ahead of time who these people were. There's kids. You don't want the kids. Do you have the ability to say, no, I'm not going to take you? Or do you get in trouble for not picking up the people that they tell you to get?
Fortunately, I was never in that situation. However, there was one time when my pickup spot was actually a house instead of them coming out. This was the only time this ever happened to me. My pickup spot was at a house. I think this was the time I got caught.